Alright, so I'm going to do a short video. I see a lot of people asking about doing a Rmotion suspension swap into an older Skidoo. So I did that to this sled, so I was just going to let you know how I did it. This is a 2010 Skidoo 1200, but it'd be the same process for any 2008 to 2011 Skidoo, until they started putting the Rmotion in there from the factory. But this is a 2010, used to be a 120, now it's a 129 Rmotion. So this was a 120 TNT, and that Rmotion is out of a 2016 TNT. I don't know if it was a 1200 or a 600 or 800, doesn't matter, they're all the same. But it was actually quite easy. You can see the front mounting hole. This right here is the factory SC5 mounting hole. This one right here is obviously where it's bolted in now for the Rmotion. Now I don't remember the exact circumstances to how this looked before I drilled it. I could probably look at my sled. Yeah, I don't, our other sled's getting worked on, so I don't. But this, I believe this, well, I know for sure, this hole was already partially here. This is the factory bracket brace. Now the hole was either in the brace and not in the tunnel, or it was in the tunnel but it wasn't in the brace. Either way, I did some measuring and double checking, but I didn't have to, I mean the hole was there, I just had to finish drilling it. And then these rivets, they hold on the inner bracket, just that the small oval one, the same one that you have here already in your SC5. So you just drill the rivets out, move it up to here, drill this hole, and then rivet that bracket back on. So that was actually quite easy to figure out once I dug into it and realized that it was pretty much already ready to go. And then for the rear, you can see the drop bracket that the Rmotion bolts into. The suspension's longer because on the SC5 you don't have this, whatever you want to call it, swing arm or whatever, torque sensing link like on the Cats. You know, on the SC5 it just bolts right through the axle, but now in the Rmotion you have this. That's how you can get away with the way you do this. The stock drop bracket bolted or riveted in these exact same holes. So you just take your SC5, you drill these rivets out, and the ones on the running board, drill them all out, take it off. Then if you're putting a 120 Rmotion in it, you get a drop bracket from a 120 Rmotion. If you're putting the 129 like this one, then I got the drop bracket off of a 129. I just went with a 2016 129. You know, snowmobile that had the Rmotion in it already. And I just bought that drop bracket, riveted in the exact same holes. I think I had to drill a couple extra on the running boards, because like this one here didn't line up. But you just drill however many holes you think you need, rivet it on there, and then you're, well, you know, do it on both sides obviously, and then it's ready to bolt in. The only other thing you'd have to do if you go to a 129, you may or may not have to put an extension on it. A lot of people are stretching their sleds one length and not putting tunnel extensions on them. We decided just to do it. I think our thought process was we were running studs, so we didn't want the studs to chew up the back of the sled. So this is just a Trax USA tunnel extension. It's a two-part. So you get the regular tunnel extension, then you get this top piece that goes over the heat exchanger, so you can run a bigger bag or whatever you want to do. And then the only other thing to consider is on, I don't know how every sled is that Skidoo has, but on the 1200s, on the 2010, the heat exchanger does not drop down in the back. And I want to say on the 2011s, it does. So if you have a 2011, you'll either have to bend your drop down heat exchanger or swap in one from a 2010 that's just flat like that, which wouldn't be the end of the world, but if you have a 2010, it's definitely easier. And then we just extended the tunnel protectors to keep everything from getting chewed up from the studs. But yeah, it's a huge improvement in ride. The Rmotion is definitely smooth, very smooth. I have the same sled, but mine's an X package, and mine's still the SC5. And I got, you know, custom valved and aftermarket shocks in the back, and this Rmotion is significantly smoother. It's a little too soft for me. I'm quite a bit heavier than my dad. This is my dad's sled. So that, I mean, you could change that with better shocks if you rode real aggressively. You should probably, I mean, obviously you know that anyway. If you're trying to swap a skid, you should know about custom valving your shocks and all that stuff. But we run the fourth wheel kit in all of our sleds. That way if you lose an outer wheel, you can still make it back to the truck, or at least a road, and get picked up. A little bit more about this sled. He's running my X package front shocks, since I have some Fox Float Evil R's on mine. We run a little bit of, we got a frog skin for the shock tower. We had one up there, it ripped off. We duct taped it. I have some, I custom made some vents. I'm gonna rivet onto that hole. I'll take that off and rivet it onto that one too. Something a little stronger than just the frog skins. I do this to a lot of our sleds. I buy some perforated aluminum, and then I use the roofing screws with those rubber washers, and I screw the perforated aluminum onto the side panel. That gives you a really nice template to drill nice holes. Drill all the holes, take the screws out, drill out where the screws were, clean it up with a bigger drill bit by hand. Don't do it with the drill or you'll have big holes. I tried it. But yeah, that works really good. Looks nice. I mean, if you're just from a distance and you're just walking around, I mean, it almost looks like a factory vent. I'll do a video on my 1200 since I got so much crap done to it. I have a whole bunch of different vents and stuff that I made, some that I bought. And I know if you're in deep snow and you're riding, the vents that have the screens and stuff over them, they'll get covered with snow. But these ones with the holes, they don't do that. They let an amazing amount of heat out. And the reason we did the venting on this is we run a PB80. Kind of seems like they run a little bit warmer than the factory clutch. You know, they don't have any fins on them for venting, but it's a super awesome clutch. This sled has 7,500 miles on it. I think it's had the PB80 on for most of them, and never had to replace anything in it except for I switched a spring just to, we wanted a little bit lower engagement. When we bought it, it had a clutch kit. We didn't like it, so I kind of built my own clutch kit for it. But you can see the vents for the shock tower. If that one there, once I get it back opened up, is going to let air in right through the guard where I drilled some holes, right over all the clutching. I drilled some holes in the back to let that air out. Gotta let that hot air out. You can put all the vents you want in the front, but if you don't put vents in the back, air doesn't go where it can't escape from, so you have to have them on the front and the back. Another thing that works good, a little trick, if you put a twist in your rubber before you put it on, it gets tighter. Keep these panels from blowing open. So there you go. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Thanks.